Life is your miracle, as I like to say sometimes. Or as we used to say growing up, life is a miracle. Today I'd like to talk about experiencing more miracles in our lives. Now we're approaching the holiday season and the start of 2024. Thus, 'tis the season, like always, for experiencing miracles. So today I enjoyed reading the first chapter from Out of This World by Neville Goddard, and I thought I would share some current reflections from experience of the chapter. The chapter is titled, Thinking Fourth Dimensionally. To think fourth dimensionally is to think feelingly from the premise of having what you desire, now. To experience those miracles which already exist in imagination, now. As he states here, where he starts off the chapter with scripture, John 14:29. And now I have told you before it come to pass, that when it come to pass, ye might believe. He continues, many persons, including myself, have observed events before they occurred. That is, before they occurred in the world of three dimensions. Since we observe an event before it occurs in the three dimensions of space, life on Earth must proceed according to plan. And this plan must exist elsewhere in another dimension and be slowly moving through our space. If the occurring events were not in this world, when they were observed, then, to be perfectly logical, they must have been out of this world. And whatever is there to be seen before it occurs here must be predetermined from the point of view of one awake in a three-dimensional world. Thus the question arises, are we able to alter our future? My object in writing these pages is to indicate possibilities inherent in us, to show that we can alter our future. But, thus altered, it forms again a deterministic sequence starting from the point of interference, a future that will be consistent with the alteration. The most remarkable feature of our future is its flexibility. It is determined by our attitudes rather than by our acts. So acts are the result of thought. As we think it in our heart, so are we. And acts appear from imaginal activity, even to a subtle degree, in everyday life. For example, if one desires to run and imagine themselves running in a wonderful park, they then appear acting out that imaginal act. He says, the cornerstone of which all things are based on is our concept of ourself. We act as we do and have the experiences that we do because our concept of ourself is what it is, and for no other reason. Had we a different concept of self, we would act differently. A change of concept of self automatically alters our future, and a change in any term of our future series of experiences reciprocally alters our concept of self. I like how he said it automatically alters our future. So the concept of self is formed by imaginal activity, which results in what appears as physical effects and acts from that imaginal activity. He says, our assumptions, which we regard as insignificant, produce effects that are considerable. Therefore, we should revise our estimate of an assumption and recognize its creative power. All changes take place in consciousness. The future, although prepared in every detail in advance, has several outcomes. So all experiences exist now in imagination, and that which we think feelingly from the premise of having appears. And now is where all the power exists to imagine how you'd like it to be, which determines what appears in the seeming future. It is key thus to deny the undesirable self-talk, which is not ideal, by thinking feelingly from the premise of already having what you desire if applicable, as he says. Every moment of our lives, we have before us the choice of which of several futures we may choose. So offer attention in imagination to what you would like to see and allow it to be made visible through the five senses accordingly. To emphasize this, I'd like to bring awareness to the following section from the chapter where he says, "The habit of seeing only that which our senses permit renders us totally blind to what we otherwise could see. To cultivate the faculty of seeing the invisible, we should often deliberately disentangle our minds from the evidence of the senses and focus our attention on an invisible state, mentally feeling it and sensing it until it has all the distinctness of reality. Earnest, concentrated thought focused in a particular direction shuts out other sensations and causes them to disappear. We have but to concentrate on the state desired in order to see it. The habit of withdrawing attention from the region of sensation and concentrating it on the invisible develops our spiritual outlook and enables us to penetrate beyond the world of sense and to see that which is invisible. For the invisible things of Him from the creation of the world are clearly seen." Romans 1:20. So the way I like to apply this in day-to-day life is if I find myself identifying with an undesirable experience, I release identification to that experience by reimagining how I would like it to be. This, although experienced as challenging in the earlier stages of conscious application of the law, became easier through consistent application. As he said in the Perfect Law of Liberty lecture, "I did it, I'm doing it, and I will continue to do it until that which I've done is perfectly externalized within my world." And this manifested in so many wonderful miracles on my entrepreneurial journey. I remember a while back reading about discerning between signal versus noise. Signal would be all that is in harmony with your vision, and noise is all that is not in harmony with your vision. Attention is priceless, and attention reveals what was imagined. So rather than reaffirming it, attention is refocused by thinking fourth dimensionally, which is thinking feelingly from the premise of your vision realized. So if you find yourself identified with an undesirable noise, release into the neutral stillness and reimagine it how you would like it to be. Or you may find that by releasing into the stillness, you allow the signal to arise, as you have already accepted your vision as fulfilled in imagination. Watch the video I made for you on Thursday, which explains. I'll link in the description to it. He says, "The vision is completely independent of the natural faculties. Open it and quicken it. Without it, these instructions are useless, for the things of the Spirit are spiritually discerned." Spiritually discerned. I like that. Reminds me of Matthew 10:16. "Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore, be shrewd as serpents and innocent as doves." And Romans 12:2. "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you'll be able to test and approve what God's will is, His good, pleasing, and perfect will." Thus discern between signal versus noise. Otherwise, one may interpret information from an undesirable state in which the information appears that way, rather than relating to it ideally from their vision. He says, "A little practice will convince us that we can, by controlling our imagination, reshape our future in harmony with our desire." Desire is the mainspring of action. We could not move a single finger unless we had the desire to move it. No matter what we do, we follow the desire, which at the moment dominates our minds. When we break the habit, our desire to break it is greater than our desire to continue the habit. Like the running example I gave earlier. This is key. To accept the desire is to acknowledge you already have. To desire a state is to have it. Rather than suppressing or repressing desire, by accepting desire as acknowledgement of your inherent fulfillment, it plays out as authentic creative expression or entrepreneurial invention, innovation, or whatever you desire. He says, "The spiritual self speaks to the natural self through the language of desire. The key to progress in life and to the fulfillment of dreams lies in ready obedience to its voice. Unhesitating obedience to its voice is an immediate assumption of the wish fulfilled. To desire a state is to have it. So we feel the fulfillment now. Like how he says, to desire a state is to have it. Anytime you desire something from the heart of reality, which the spiritual self speaks from, acknowledge, thank you, I already have. Feel the fulfillment. Like how he said in his No One to Change But Self lecture, what you now desire, you already have, and you seek it only because you have already found it. You found it in the form of desire. He says, assumptions awaken what they affirm. As soon as we assume the feeling of our wish fulfilled, our fourth dimensional self finds ways for the attainment of this end, discovers methods for its realization. So this is another key. There's no need to worry about how it appears. God animates all. There's only one cause, and it is within. I am. Spirit animates all, and by that I mean in and as what and how what is appears. Isaiah 55:9. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts. As I always say, in relation to your vision, ideal thoughts are received within, and we allow them to arise from the stillness, again discussed in Thursday's video. He says, I know of no clearer definition of what the means by which we realize our desires than to experience in imagination what we would experience in the flesh were we to achieve our goal. This experience of the end wills the means. With its larger outlook, the fourth dimensional self then constructs the means necessary to realize the accepted end. The undisciplined mind finds it difficult to assume a state which is denied by the senses. So the undisciplined mind is the effect of a self that is identified with the world made visible through the five senses in a not so ideal way, rather than being aware of how the one cause within I am is related to with imagination. John 1:1-3. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. So he gives a way to apply all that we're discussing here today. He says, here's a technique that makes it easier to encounter events before they occur, to call things which are not seen as though they were. Romans 4:17. People have a habit of slighting the importance of simple things. But this simple formula for changing the future was discovered after years of searching and experimenting. The first step in changing the future is desire. That is, define your objective. Know definitely what you want. Secondly, construct an event which you believe you would encounter following the fulfillment of your desire. An event which implies fulfillment of your desire. Something that will have the action of self-predominant. So it could be friends congratulating you on your new home. I remember when I bought my first home, I imagined myself living in the house that I wanted and friends congratulating me on owning my home while in my home in imagination. He says, thirdly, immobilize the physical body and induce a condition akin to sleep. Lie on a bed or relax in a chair and imagine that you are sleepy. Then, with your eyelids closed and your attention focused on the action you intend to experience in imagination, mentally feel yourself right into the proposed action, imagining all the while that you are actually performing the action here and now. You must always participate in the imaginary action, not merely stand back and look on, but you must feel that you are actually performing the action so the imaginary sensation is real to you. So do what implies the feeling of fulfillment, like that's the way it is. So as mentioned, I apply what we're discussing here to think feelingly from the end the way that he described. This is acceptance of the end which wills the means. As he says, experience has taught me to restrict the imaginary action to condense the idea, which is to be the object of our meditation, into a single act. and to reenact it over and over again until it has the feeling of reality. And I may also, on the journey to actualizing my vision, may do this without inducing a state akin to sleep during my day-to-day initiatives if appearances seem to deny. Again, appearances are not actually denying our vision. We can disentangle the mind from the evidence of the senses in the moment, releasing into the neutral stillness, and reimagine it how you'd like it to be. Or as mentioned, you may find that by releasing into the stillness, you allow the signal to arise as you have already accepted your vision as fulfilled in imagination. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's go ahead and conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You could say, I realize that my vision is fact in imagination, and the world made visible through the five senses is done to be in harmony and contribution with my vision, in loving, harmonious ways with all, as spirit animates all, appearing in and as what and how what is appears on the bridge of incidents to actualizing my vision. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk with you soon. Take care.